Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Tracy. I am your host for the day. Well, the next 15-20 minutes. Today, we're going to be looking at, yes, indeed, a Nissan. This is a 2022 Nissan Time Machine. Well, that's not what Nissan calls it, of course. They call it the Armada. But I like to call it the Time Machine, but we'll get to why I call it that a little later on. Let's step outside and have a look at what we're dealing with. So as I said, a 2022, the Armada, obviously a full size. It certainly fits that profile. Full size SUV. This one is an 8-passenger spec. This one, they did a mid-cycle refresh in 2021, and they sort of gave it a new nose, some new headlights, etc. Some nice updates actually, because the old design, yeah, it wasn't the prettiest thing in the world, was it? So they sort of fixed its teeth and its eyeballs, and it looks much nicer. I like it. We get this one, of course, comes equipped with the ubiquitous 5.6-liter V8. Fascinating power plant. We'll discuss in greater detail later on. We get 22-inch rims, which are actually really nice and would probably be pretty easy to clean from the detailer's perspective. So yeah, get brushes in there, no problem at all. Coming around to the back, we get sort of, it reminds me, I'll crouch a little lower here, of those bullet trains in Japan. You know what I mean? You have that big, well, not quite that extreme, but you have a big duck-billed platypus-looking thing here, and then it tapers all the way to the roofline. Right in the back, we get, obviously, Armada, proudly emblazoned on the power tailgate. We get a power tailgate. Common criticism is how long it takes this tailgate to go up. I agree. It does take its time, doesn't it? Probably, if you look at the size of this power strut, man, that's a budget choice. But if you thought that took some time, check this out. So these are the third row seats are powered, which is exactly what you want. However, watch this. We're going to do this in real time because, well, what else are we going to do? Check this out. Wait for it. Wait for it. Not yet. Wow. And completely flat. That is slow. Really slow. I'll put that back up before I forget. I was walking through the car and it just struck me how slow that was. The rear tailgate doesn't bother me so much, but this, man, look at that. That would just drive me absolutely bonkers every time I had to use it. But at least it's powered. I'll give you that. And yeah, from when this car was birthed, maybe that was a fast set of electric motors. Outside of that, you get a decent, excuse my gear, a decent, sort of semi-decent cargo space with all 3 rows in place. You know, it's good enough for the daily shop, etc. It does fall down a little bit if you have anything bigger, and you need to keep the 3rd row in place. You are going to struggle, but the 3rd row, you drop it, you get tons of space, perfectly usable. So yeah, it's a nice area back here, and everything is powered, which is always good, no matter how long it takes for everything to close up. Now, speaking of the 3rd row, let's head into the back. Well, I'm not going to crawl into the back because, well, it's just not necessary. And I won't fit back there at all. So, as you can tell, 3rd row access is actually rather decent, to be honest, because the 3rd row, if you look at it, I mean, there's enough headroom for adults, not a lot of leg room. So, again, largely designed for children, as most 3rd rows are. And they can scamper in and out of here pretty easily. My children certainly did. So, yeah, no complaints there whatsoever. But it is not for adults. It's just not. Because this 2nd row, excuse the grunting, heavy seats. This 2nd row does not slide back and forth. So, yeah, plenty of leg room. That's not an issue. But they do take it from the 3rd row leg room. So, keep that in mind. In the 2nd row, as I said, plenty of space, lots of leg room, etc. You get entertainment in this Platinum model, entertainment units in the headrests. They're actually kind of nice. I don't know how many people are using these over, iPads and phones. I mean, they're everywhere, so I don't know. But you can plug in a flash drive and, watch a YouTube video from your favorite auto presenter should you see fit to do so. You also get, obviously, an extension of the quilted leather back here, a center console for cup holders, and the most interesting thing in the back, heated seat controls, environmental controls, lots of electrical stuff down here, which you may or may not be able to see. The most interesting thing in the back seat for me, though, was this. This is rear access to the center console. I have never seen that before. It's really rather interesting because you still, if you reach to the front, same, right? But they give the rear seat occupants, second row seat occupants access. That's been making me laugh for days. I love that. And I didn't figure that out. My son did, because kids figure this stuff out way faster than we do. So that is it. Obviously, you see no panoramic roof back here. No sunroof whatsoever. We get the little tiny one up front. I'll comment on that when I reach the front seats. I think there's actually a rationale behind it. But nevertheless, there is no glass roof back here. So just good old-fashioned steel. We see here in the sunshine, you can actually tell it's got kind of a grayish black charcoal leather, predominantly leather exterior, and then you get additional leather trim in kind of a brown, which is interesting. I like it. It's not jarring or ugly. That plastic trim we'll talk about in a minute. Moving into the front seats, where the magic happens. Okay. Let's fire this thing up, shall we? See, there we go. Confirming you're in a Nissan. And then that tells you it's an Armada. So, we are front seats, very comfortable. You get Napa trimmed leather with ubiquitous quilting, because everybody wants quilted leather. What you also get, I can see it on that door, but I'll open this one and give you guys a good look. You get pleated or ruched or whatever they call this phenomenon, leather. I have not seen much of this in a long time. And remember, I called this thing the Nissan Time Machine. There's a reason for that. One of the many design elements that's been around a very long time on this car. It makes you feel like you're sitting in 1994, or sorry, 2004. But anyway, nevertheless. So I wanted to make sure I pointed that out. You also get this plastic, this shiny, very faux wood trim. I'm usually pretty harsh on this stuff. You don't see much of it anymore, thank God. It doesn't look horrible in this car, and you do see it in other, far more premium vehicles. The Escalade, as an example, features some pretty appalling looking faux wood trim. But it's here, it's there. They kind of wrap it a little bit in the back, and that's it. So it's not so bad at all. Moving on, we get the sort of standard Nissan steering wheel that really hasn't changed. Oh boy, what, 20 years, give or take? A friend of mine has a 2009 Altima Coupe. Pretty much the exact same steering wheel for the most part. Very similar design, has not, I don't know, they just haven't updated it. I guess that works, especially on this vehicle. They're only going to produce so many of them. But again, just another thing that sort of lets you know, oh yeah, it's not the most modern SUV that you can buy. We get a very standard, oh well, low fuel. I get used to seeing that. I'll clear that for the time being. Oh, don't show that. That's for later. So you get the standard kind of, you get fixed tack, fixed speedo, and then you can tinker with the gubbins in the middle. You can put anything you want in there. The Nissan menus get a little confusing sometimes. They're a little obtuse, but you'll figure it out. And then we go into what was the major interior update of 2021. You get the most modern Nissan infotainment system that they offer, which is actually really good. It's the same one I think you get in the Frontier, or at least a version of. The screen is high resolution. It looks good. You get wireless CarPlay, wired Android Auto as far as I could tell, because I couldn't get wireless to work. So apparently that's one of those weird little quirks. So it's 12.3 inches, which is kind of a standard size, not bad. Very wide angle, etc. That works. Wireless CarPlay, very cool. Surrounded in piano black, is what it is. So you get separate environmental controls, audio controls, big chunky buttons and dials, which is really nice. Because yeah, you don't want it all on the screen, right? Not at all. You get more of this faux wood trim, and you hit that, and you get charging port. That's your wireless charging pad, which is nice to see. It's one of those things that sometimes manufacturers just won't update. USB ports, you get a trailer brake control. Done some towing in my time. It lets you know what kind of a vehicle you're dealing with if you have a dedicated trailer brake function. So, because this is a ladder chassis vehicle, so it is designed to tow if you choose to do that. The center console here, you have driver controls, you have four-wheel drive controls, and of course your gear selector. It's nice to have something you can put your hand on. It's cool, actually. You don't see that as often as we used to, so I like that. Cup holders, you can cover it up with more of this charming trim. And then, as I mentioned, center console access, which is cool. So sort of decent sized, bare bare plastic. I would have preferred something with a felty liner, but nevertheless. And there's the sunroof. So you get just, this is all you can have, very small, kind of frustrating for a lot of people. The rationale, I guess, is that this is built in Japan on the same platform as the Nissan Passport. Is that what it's called? Oh no, that's a Honda, isn't it? The Patrol? Damn it, I'll look it up and I'll confirm. But which is kind of their worldwide Toyota Land Cruiser competitor, and this is built with that now. It used to be based on the Titan, built in America. Now they build it in Japan and share a setup with that particular vehicle. So that was as of 2017, I believe, when they did the major update. So if you put an entire glass roof in here, I mean, it could break if you're actually, in the bush or whatever the case may be, and you do, this kind of stuff. There are concerns that the glass could flex or get cracked during all that kind of stuff. I don't know. Apparently, this is preferred for any sort of serious 4x4 vehicle. So there it is. That is the interior. Oh, I almost forgot. Look at that. Camera. I was surprised to find this little piece of functionality on this vehicle. A rear view mirror camera. Relatively clear. I liked it. It was good. And yeah, it was nice to see that, actually. I didn't expect that in this particular car. Something I almost forgot. How could I? I'm going to hit the camera button here and take it to the infotainment system. You get, on this wonderful resolution screen, you get decidedly standard definition cameras. I think it's the exact same camera system that is in my wife's 2019 Kicks. A bit of a bummer. You can see what you're doing, but it's not great, which, I mean, just, some HD cameras. Come on, fellas. But anyway, that's what you get when you look at the cameras. So it'll tell you what you need to know. It's just not the most satisfying experience in the world. I think that covers everything I wanted to talk about. So let's go driving, shall we? I'm just going to have to find a kidney to sell to put a tank of gas in, but away we go. All 2022 Nissan Armadas come with the same 5.6 liter V8 that has been provided with this vehicle, if I'm not mistaken, since it was first went on sale nearly 20 years ago. It gives you 400 horsepower, 450 pound-feet of torque, and that will allow you in this vehicle to tow 8,500 pounds. Now, typically with SUVs, I'm not sold on doing any sort of actual heavy towing, just because they're typically unibody construction. You don't want to, I don't know, I'm old school, I guess. I don't like putting all that stress on a unibody vehicle, but this one is a proper body on frame. I was going to say ladder chassis, same thing, but it basically, so it's like a pickup truck, right? And it is designed to take the punishment of towing. And yeah, you can tow all manner of travel trailer, boats, etc., and you can do it with relative ease. So that's nice. And you got plenty of power, etc. Transmission feels strong. I have not had the occasion to tow with this vehicle, but I have no doubt that it would handle it very, very well. I've mentioned a couple of times throughout this video how vintage the Armada feels. See, my only way to describe it, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I really actually rather like this car. I mean, it's idiotic in a lot of ways, but what massive size SUV isn't? But this thing, they designed certain elements of it, almost 20 years ago, and then just have not changed them. They are resolute and stubborn. It was good enough for the early 21st century, and it's good enough for now. So, I mean, again, you get the plastic, the leather trim, I mean, God, that engine, right? It's just one of those things, because the chassis, like this equivalent in Europe, I mean, it comes with diesels, it comes with all sorts of stuff that would make this a much more competitive offer here in North America. This vehicle's primary competitor, there are lots of options still, believe it or not, for the full-size 7 or 8 passenger SUV. You could do the Expedition, you could do the Sequoia, you could do the offerings from GM, the 3 or 4, however many there are now, etc. The only competitor from a price perspective is the GM, the Tahoe, etc. That you can get sort of a very similarly priced vehicle, because that is similarly priced car. But you can get that for the same price as this. You can get that with a diesel, a 3-liter diesel, and that 3-liter diesel is great. Makes those things daily drivers. It's totally cool. If you end up with like the 6.2-liter gas engine, you're in deep trouble. Sorry, because it's just as thirsty as this thing. So if you are going to wander into a Nissan dealership and spec out an Armada, please, oh please, choose the 7-seater option. The second row captain's chairs cost you an extra $1,000 Canadian, but it is money well spent. I've said it over and over and over again on all these larger vehicles with greater seating capacity. That second row should always be captain's chairs. Most people will transport no more than 4 people in a car like this, and why can't we all just be comfortable? I think it's great. Probably better for resale, etc. You're almost never going to use 8 seats. You know, you're really not. You're just not. So second row captain's chairs, please do it for me. I do have to say, the ride is quite smooth in this car. The engine is smooth, transmission smooth. It's relatively quiet in the cabin, etc. It's got a certain level of refinement to it, which I really rather like. Visibility is good. You can see almost everything you need. I find the wing mirrors here are a little small. They look like Shrek's ears, don't they? Like, seriously, check it out. You can see most of what you need. It just feels like I should have an extra inch on the left. Anyway, but for the most part, yeah, I mean, you can see sort of everything that's going on. And I do have to say, this thing turns like I've never seen on a vehicle of this size. It is remarkably nimble. You know, my pickup truck, I mean, that thing's like, you know, it's turning around a submarine, right? It's crazy. But this thing, I mean, it turns very, very sharply. You know, yeah, and when you're making like normal maneuvers on the road, etc., you don't need much movement of the steering wheel. In fact, for the first day, I kind of oversteered this thing. Not the fun oversteer, the holy crap, I'm going to hit a curb oversteer. So it's cool, actually. It makes it very, and the steering is light. I almost forgot to say that. It's a very, very light steering wheel. And that's cool. That's probably partly what contributes to turning a little too much. You know, for a vehicle like this, you don't want it to be a painful, exhausting experience to drive. And they've achieved that with this thing. It's very comfortable and a very easy vehicle to drive. So as you can tell, the range to empty indicator has turned off, which is the Nissan way of saying you better find a gas station. So I'm going to go do that because I am quite a ways from one, actually, so fingers crossed. But the 2022 Nissan Armada, it's going to be really interesting to see what Nissan decides to do with this vehicle. Now that it shares its sort of global platform, you know, there are, with regards to economy of scale, etc., economies of scale, they can probably continue to produce this thing at a relatively affordable way. I just don't know how much market there is left for a vehicle that consumes fuel the way this one does. It's just so inefficient. And that really is its biggest problem. You know, I don't even mind all the vintage equipment in this thing. It kind of reminds me of when I was young and beautiful. So that's fine, you know, and it has everything you need, you know, to be, for the most part, happy with your daily drive. But they've got to do something about the fuel economy. So are they going to do that, or are they just going to discontinue the thing and move on with their lives? I don't know. It'll be really interesting to see how that shakes out. If you're in the market for a 7 or 8 passenger mega-sized condominium, this is something you should consider. Take it for a drive. You never know. It has charm. I've said that like 3 times already, and I'm going to keep saying it. So do take it for a drive. And yeah, then make your decision from there. I guess that's going to do it for us, isn't it? This has been the 2022 Nissan Armada. Thank you all very, very much for joining me. I really appreciate it. If you haven't done it yet, please subscribe. I would appreciate that. You know, lots of eyeballs and a trickle of subscribers. It sort of characterizes the channel. Thank you all very, very much for your support, and we will see you all on the next video.